Hello friends, today we will do chapter number 4, The Final Victory. Read this extract from the famous book, The Kite Runner. The kite flying tournament was an old winter tradition in Afghanistan. It started early in the morning of the day of the contest and didn't end until only the winning kite flew in the sky. Once the tournament outlasted daylight, people gathered on sidewalks and roofs to cheer for their kids. The streets filled with kite fighters, jerking and tugging on their lines, squinting up to the sky, trying to gain position to cut the opponent's line. Every kite fighter had an assistant. In my case, Hassan, who held the spool and fed the line. The fun began when a kite was cut. That was where the kite runners came in. Those kids who chased the wind-blown kite drifting through the neighborhoods until it came spiraling down in a field, dropping in someone's yard, on a tree or a rooftop. The chase got pretty fierce. Hordes of kite runners swarmed the streets, shot past each other like those people from Spain I would read about once, the ones who ran from the bulls. One year, a neighborhood kid climbed a pine tree for a kite. A branch snapped under his weight and he fell 30 feet, getting severely injured. But he fell with the kite still in his hands. And when a kite runner had his hands on a kite, no one could take it from him. That wasn't a rule. That was the custom. For the kite runners, the most coveted prize was the last fallen kite of a winter tournament. It was a trophy of honor, something to be displayed on a mantle for guests to admire. When the sky cleared of kites and only the final two remained, every kite runner readied himself for the chance to land this prize. He positioned himself at a spot that he thought would give him a head start. Tense muscles readied themselves to uncoil. Necks craned, eyes crinkled. Fights broke out, and when the last kite was cut, all hell broke loose. Over the years, I had seen a lot of guys run kites, but Hassan was by far the greatest kite runner I had ever seen. It was downright airy the way he always got to the spot the kite would land before the kite did, as if he had some sort of inner compass. The day of the tournament dawned. Streets glistened with fresh snow and the sky was a blameless blue. Snow blanketed every rooftop and weighed on branches of the stunted mulberry trees that lined our street. I heard Baba mutter a prayer under his breath. He always said a prayer when I left the house. I had never seen so many people in our street. Kids were flinging snowballs, squabbling, chasing one another, giggling. Kite fighters were huddling with their pole holders and making last-minute preparations. From adjacent streets, I could hear laughter and chatter. Already, rooftops were jammed with spectators reclining in lawn chairs, hot tea steaming from thermoses, and the music of Ahmad Zahir blaring from cassette players. I turned my gaze to a rooftop, found Baba and Rahim Khan sitting on a bench, both dressed in wool sweaters, sipping tea. Baba waved. I couldn't tell if he was waving at me or Hassan. We should get started, Hassan said. He wore black rubber snow boots and a bright green chapan over a thick sweater and faded corduroy pants. Sunlight washed over his face, and in it I saw how well the pink scar above his lip had healed. Suddenly, I wanted to withdraw, pack it all in, go back home. What was I thinking? Why was I putting myself through this when I already knew the outcome? Baba was on the roof watching me. I felt his glare on me like the heat of a blistering sun. This would be a failure on a grand scale, even for me. I am not sure. I want to fly a kite today, I said. It's a beautiful day, Hassan said. I shifted on my feet, tried to peel my gaze away from our rooftop. I don't know. Maybe we should go home. Then he stepped toward me and in a low voice said something that scattered me a little. Remember, Amir Agha, there's no monster, just a beautiful day. How could I be such an open book to him when half the time I had no idea what was milling around in his head? I was the one who went to school, the one who could read, write. I was the smart one. Hassan couldn't read a first grade textbooks, but he did read me plenty. That was a little unsettling, but also sort of comfortable to have someone who always knew what you needed. No monster, I said, feeling a little better to my own surprise. He smiled. No monster? Are you sure? He closed his eyes, nodded. I looked at the kids scampering down the street, flinging snowballs. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? Let's fly, he said. Let's do it, I said. Hassan's face brightened. Good, he said. He lifted our kite, red with yellow borders, and just beneath were the central and cross spars, met marked with Sappho's unmistakable signature. He licked his finger and held it up, tested the wind, then ran in its direction. On those rare occasions, we flew kites. In the summer, he would kick up dust to see which way the wind blew it. The spool rolled in my hands until Hassan stopped. About 50 feet away, he held the kite high over his head like an Olympic athlete showing his gold medal. Jerked the string, twice, our usual signal, and Hassan tossed the kite. I took a deep breath, exhaled, and pulled on the string. Within a minute, my kite was rocketing to the sky. It made a sound like a paper bird flapping its wings. Hassan clapped his hands, whistled, and ran back to me. I handed him the spool, holding onto the string, and he spun it quickly to roll the loose string back on. At least 2 dozen kites already hung in the sky like paper sharks roaming for prey. Within an hour, the number doubled, and red, blue, and yellow kites glided and spun in the sky. A cool breeze wafted through my hair. The wind was perfect for kite flying, blowing just hard enough to give some lift, make the sweeps easier. Next to me, Hassan held the spool, his hands already bloodied by the string. Soon the cutting started and the first of the defeated kites whirled out of control. They fell from the sky like shooting stars with brilliant, rippling tails, showering the neighborhoods below with prizes for the kite runners. I could hear the runners now, hollering as they ran the street. Someone shouted reports of a fight breaking out 2 streets down. I kept stealing glances at Baba sitting with Rahim Khan on the roof and wondered what he was thinking. Was he cheering for me, or did a part of him enjoy watching me fail? They were coming down all over the place now, the kites, and I was still flying. But my eyes kept wandering over to Baba, bundled up in his wool sweater. Was he surprised I had lasted as long I had? You don't keep your eyes to the sky. You wasn't last much longer. I snapped my gaze back to the sky. A red kite was closing in on me. I had caught it just in time. I tangled a bit with it, ended up blasting him when he became impatient and tried to cut me from below. Up and down the streets, kite runners were returning triumphantly, their captured kites held high. They showed them off to their parents, their friends, but they all knew the best was yet to come. The biggest prize of all was still flying. I sliced a bright yellow kite with a coiled white tail. It cost me another gash on the index finger and blood trickled down into my palm. I had Hassan hold the string and suck the blood dry, blotted my finger against my jeans. Within another hour, the number of surviving kites dwindled from maybe 50 to a dozen. I was one of them. I had made it to the last dozen. I knew this part of the tournament would take a while because the guys who had lasted this long were good. They wouldn't easily fall into simple traps like the old lift and dive, Hassan's favorite trick. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, tufts of clouds had drifted in and the sun had slipped behind them. Shadows started to lengthen. The spectators on the roof bundled up in scarves and thick coats. We were down to a half-dozen and was still flying. My legs ached and my neck was stiff, but with each defeated kite, Hope great in my heart, like snow collecting on a wall, one flake at a time. My eyes kept returning to a blue kite that had been wreaking havoc for the last hour. How many has he cut? I asked. I counted 11. Hassan said. Do you know whose it might be? Hassan clucked his tongue and tipped his chin. That was a trademark. Hassan's gesture meant he had no idea. The blue kite sliced a big purple one and swept twice in big loops. 10 minutes later he had cut another two, sending hordes of kite runners racing after them. After another 30 minutes, only 4 kites remained, and I was still flying. It seemed I could hardly make a wrong move, as if every gust of wind blew in my favor. I had never felt so in command, so lucky it felt intoxicating. I didn't look up the roof, didn't dare take my eyes off the sky. I had to concentrate, play it smart. Another 15 minutes, and what had seemed like a laughable dream that morning had suddenly become a reality. It was just me and the other guy, the blue kite. The tension in the air was as taut as the glass string I was tugging with my bloody hands. People were stamping their feet, clapping, whistling, chanting. Cut him! Cut him! I wondered if Baba's voice was one of them. Music blasted. The smell of steamed mantu and fried pakoda drifted from rooftops and open doors. But all I heard, all I willed myself to hear, was the thudding of blood in my head. All I saw was the blue kite. All I smelled was victory, salvation, redemption. If Baba was wrong and there was a God like they said in school, then he would let me win. I didn't know what the other guy was playing for, maybe just bragging rights. But this was my one chance to become someone who was looked at, not seen, listened, not heard. And suddenly, just like that, hope became knowledge. I was going to win. It was just a matter of when. It turned out to be sooner than later. A gust of wind lifted my kite and I took advantage. Fed the string and pulled up, looped my kite on the top of blue one. I held position. The blue kite knew it was in trouble. It was trying desperately to move out of the jam, but I didn't let go. I held position. The crowd sensed the end was at hand. The chorus of cut him, grew louder. You're almost there, Amir Agha, almost there. Hassan was panting. Then the moment came. I closed my eyes and loosened my grip on the string. It sliced my fingers again as the wind dragged it, and then I didn't need to hear the crowd's roar to know. I didn't need to see either. Hassan was screaming and his arm was wrapped around my neck. Bravo, bravo, Amir Agha. Extracted from The Kite Runner by Khaled Hassinu. Thank you, friends. Bye bye.